Okay guys, in today's video we have a few game-related things to go over and discuss, some interesting pieces of information that I think a lot of you are going to be pretty interested in. The first has to do with a God of War sequel being teased, and if this is in fact what we are looking at, it may indicate that the game is much further along development-wise than a lot of people might assume. We're also going to be talking about The Last of Us Part 2 and some things that a few developers there had to say about it. Games Radar wrote up an interesting article, and I feel like it's been a little while since we've discussed The Last of Us Part 2, so I wanted to do that. But we're also going to be talking about Quantic Dream briefly and how it seems David Cage is teasing that they have big plans and some exciting stuff coming in 2020. Now, we don't know if this is PlayStation related, so we're just going to go over that and maybe speculate on that a little bit. But starting here with the God of War sequel, Tease, says Santa Monica Studios narrative animator Kim Newman has posted a picture on Twitter in a full motion capture suit, which could mean that the long-rumored God of War sequel is in production. And so there is an image of her in the suit, and she says, "Feels good to be back in the suit." Goes on to say, "It's the latest trickle of evidence that suggests the studio is working on a sequel. Last year, it posted job listings recruiting for a senior combat animator with a knowledge of God of War 2018. There was also a role for a facial blend shape character artist that also mentioned knowledge of next gen, suggesting that Sony Santa Monica is in fact working on a sequel to God of War, which will land on the PS5. A next-gen title makes total sense when you consider Sony's next-gen console is slated to release at the end of this year, although it should be noted that certain job listings on their career site specifically mention working on PS4, so there's a chance we could get another adventure on Sony's current console." A short while after, as Games Radar Plus reported, more job postings were advertised that appeared to hint where the next God of War game could take place. Interestingly, the postings were looking for an assistant cinematic director and a cinematic artist who had experience in martial arts and dance. This requirement could be taken in a number of ways, but suggests the next God of War could take place in Eastern Asia. Nothing official has been revealed about our reunion with Kratos, but outside of the job listings, there have been plenty of hints and rumors circulating about the sequel. Early last year, an interesting God of War PS4 theme also hinted where the series could be heading. The theme saw Kratos and Atreus in a boat with Nordic runes etched on the side that translates to Ragnarok is coming, which could spell that the sequel will go in the direction of the Norse apocalypse. So, yeah, I know that was a bit of reading there, but as you can see here, it's more than obvious that Sony Santa Monica is working on a follow-up to God of War 2018. This just makes total sense. I don't think this comes as a surprise to anybody, but when I said in the beginning of this video that some people might be surprised at just how far along this game may already be in development, is that when you think about motion capture, that part of game development usually doesn't come till the later stages. That's when they're getting pretty close to, I don't want to say like, being like 6 months out from release or anything, but, you consider that game development takes multiple years. Usually that happens within the last year and a half, based off of what I've heard. If you remember, I believe it was last year sometime we heard that Naughty Dog was wrapping up their motion capture. So, knowing that, God of War 2018, it came out, I think, in April of 2018, and you think about where we are now, we're going to be getting the PlayStation 5 reveal at some point in the next month or two, hopefully. I don't think it's too far-fetched to think that Sony may actually reveal the next God of War alongside their PS5. I don't think it would be like a full-blown gameplay demonstration. Maybe it could be, but I think it would be a trailer, maybe a short one. It could even just be a teaser trailer. But I think it is possible that Sony could try to have the next God of War ready to go by sometime in 2021. If not 2021, then maybe sometime in early 2022. We saw how successful it was for them to release God of War 2018 in like the first half of 2018. Maybe they'll try to shoot for this game to be ready to go for the first half of 2022, but we don't know. What we do know is that Sony has a lot of different sequels that they have lined up. You got to think about the next Horizon game. When are we going to get that? You would assume that we would get that before the next God of War, and we've heard that apparently the next Spider-Man game is much further along in development than we thought as well, and we could get that as soon as holiday 2021. Of course, these are all rumors, But it's very clear that Sony Santa Monica is working on something God of War related, and I think it's just interesting to pay attention to this because it does tell us the fact that, she's in a motion capture suit, and it's basically a big hint that they're doing motion capture for the next God of War, that it could be much further along than we thought. The last thing I want to say here about God of War and Sony Santa Monica is talking about Cory Barlog. A lot of people are wondering what's going on with him because he's been a little bit suspicious on Twitter over the past couple of months, making it seem like he's teasing something game-related, but it has nothing to do with God of War. In fact, it seems like space-themed or sci-fi themed. And if I had to speculate about that, because I haven't talked about it yet on the channel, I think he's teasing the fact that he is working on a new sci-fi themed IP, and it'll probably be quite a while till we hear about it, but I think that was his subtle way of letting us know that he's moving on from God of War and he wants to do something completely new and fresh. Some people don't want to hear that. They want to know that Cory Barlog is the one that's going to be completely in charge of the next God of War game, but I think it's a great thing. This is kind of a common practice, I think, where when these creatives they make a game and it's just so successful, they kind of want to move on and try something completely new and challenge themselves. I have to imagine that's probably something he wants to do. But moving on from that, I want to discuss The Last of Us Part 2, and I think that it's easy to forget that this game is going to be launching within the next 5.5 months. It is easily going to be, in my opinion, the biggest game we get of 2020, and you guys know how excited I am for it, and I feel like it's been quite a while since we talked about The Last of Us Part 2, and I haven't seen too many outlets talking about it either, but I came across this interesting Games Radar article that kind of discusses it a little bit, and it does retread some of the things we already discussed, but it has a few quotes from, I believe, Haley Gross, who is the co-writer on The Last of Us Part 2, and it really just talks about the themes of the game and the emotional impact that Naughty Dog is striving to achieve in different ways with The Last of Us Part 2 compared to what they did with Part 1. Now, we have, again, talked about this before, but I think this serves as a good refresh and reminder and just honestly a way to continually, keep us excited for the game, because it's probably going to be a little bit till we see something about The Last of Us Part 2. Maybe when Sony reveals the PS5, we'll hear or see more about it, but let's do a little bit of reading. It says, the Naughty Dog sequel started the conversation with its impressive first hands-on for press back in September. We got to see an older, angrier Ellie, a far cry from the vulnerable girl from the first game, and the devastation she was now able to inflict on any who threatened her or the people she loves. Ultimately, this is a story about the cycle of violence, right? But beyond that, it's a conversation about the effects systemic trauma can have on your soul, explains Haley Gross, co-writer of The Last of Us 2. Her explanation came after an equally horrifying and impressive example of the cycle of violence in action. As Ellie hunted by the WLF, I was cornered and attacked by one of their dogs who can follow Ellie's scent even when she's hiding. It felt like the only way out was to fight back with a hammer and then to try and creep away. Listening to the sound of the dog's human handler when they discovered the grisly results, it felt real and terrible and completely alien to a gamer who has spent decades happily killing faceless, emotionless NPCs with bloodthirsty abandon. We want to raise the stakes for Ellie, so every time you're experiencing these setups, you have to engage with what would have been a typical NPC, but now you've shot him and his friend keeps screaming his name, and you have to carry the impact of your violence with you as you escape that setup. Naughty Dog has always excelled at creating characters that are more than just the usual Space Marine meatheads or comic book villains, giving us the brilliant Nathan Drake, Elena Fisher, and Chloe Fraser, to name a few, but The Last of Us, and now its sequel, use that narrative know-how to create a much darker story. Neil Druckmann, vice president at Naughty Dog, has already warned us that while the first game focused on love, the love between Joel and Ellie, that parental protective drive that wants to define their relationship, this is a game about hate and revenge. It's unsettling and exciting to think just which parts of our hearts Naughty Dog is going to slice into filet mignon, and fans are already taking guesses. Early footage was worryingly Joel-free, leading some to speculate that he was in fact dead, but he made an appearance in the September demo. We also saw more of Dina, that charismatic brunette that Ellie kissed in the first trailer for the game, sending some of us into panics that she'll be the reason Ellie is out for revenge. Like Game of Thrones at its peak, it feels like no one is safe in the world of The Last of Us 2, least of all those of us who have become emotionally invested in these characters. So much of what we're trying to do is lean into the why, Gross says, of Ellie's journey. It's like, yes, she's going on this quest for justice, but why? What is the impact on her soul, and why does she continue to go on? And it's the lightness that I think will hopefully balance out the dark. So yeah, I know that was a little bit of a long read there, but I just feel like this article did a great job in kind of giving us a good reminder of why we are so excited about The Last of Us 2. And I've discussed at length a lot of the stuff that Naughty Dog is really striving to achieve here, and it just gets me excited. I really can't wait for this game. Obviously, I'm extremely excited for the PS5 and everything Sony's going to be revealing, and we've been talking so much about the PlayStation 5, about specs, about this, about that. It feels nice to kind of just make a video here where we're discussing games, not only games like God of War, a sequel to that, which we know we're going to get at some point, but also a game that's coming within the next 6 months, that being The Last of Us Part 2, and I just can't wait to experience this game with you guys, and it's going to obviously play a big role on the channel, and I think it's just going to be a good time in general. But the final thing I want to end the video with here has to do with David Cage taking to Twitter, and he says, "Okay, I'm late, but I wanted to say Happy New Year. I wish you the best for 2020. 2019 has been an amazing year for the studio. 2020 should be even more exciting. We have a lot of surprises to come for our fans, so stay tuned. And in 2020, more than ever." So yeah, I thought that this was an interesting tweet, and I've seen a couple outlets pick this up because clearly Quantic Dream has some big plans for 2020, and I know a lot of you are wondering, did I ever finish Detroit Become Human? And unfortunately, no, I haven't finished it yet. It's not often I actually start playing a game, get like halfway through, and just kind of fall off it. I do plan to go back to it and finish it, though, at some point. It's just going to be a little bit difficult to do so in 2020 with all the games we have to play. But what I have played of it so far, I actually really did enjoy it, and I do want to go back and finish it and, you know, try to get all the different options if I can. But yeah, this has some people wondering, is this going to be in relation to PlayStation at all? We know that Sony gave them the green light to put their games on the PC, and we also know that maybe there's been a little bit of a distance between Sony and Quantic Dream, but maybe not. It's going to be interesting. I just thought this was worth mentioning at the end here because I know a lot of you on the channel really like Quantic Dream. A lot of you really enjoyed Detroit Become Human. In fact, the reason why I picked it up and started playing it was because a lot of you recommended it. So here you go. Even if it's not PlayStation related, or, you know, they're kind of doing their own thing now, which I'm sure they probably are, you can still be excited that, according to David Cage, they have some big plans for 2020. So that's going to do it for the video, guys. Be sure to leave your thoughts down in the comments below. Let me know what you think about this God of War tease, about The Last of Us Part 2, and the emotional impact it's going to have, and what David Cage is saying here on Twitter. Be sure to leave the video a like if you enjoyed it, if you found it informative. Really helps it out. Lets me know you guys enjoy the content. Subscribe to the channel if you're new and haven't already. Hit the bell notification icon so you never miss an upload, and feel free to share this video out on top of all that. But until next time, guys, take care.